Welcome everybody to today's Two Saints show with myself, Mark C, and my co-host Mark H. How you doing, Mark?
Yes, well, I'm doing fine. I mean, obviously doing a lot better than some of our Saints supporting fraternity.
Oh yes.
I mean, all I want to say, Mark, is people, let's not start panicking just yet. In fact, let's not start panicking for a little while, okay? Let's try and get some of our injured players back and then see where we'll go from there. But in the meantime, I hope that everybody's keeping safe and well and looking after each other.
Yeah, totally echo those sentiments, Mark. Absolutely. And as Mark says, let's not press the panic button yet.
Yeah.
Whereas used to be famously said in Dad's Army, don't panic. So the Two Saints email address is the Two Saints podcast show at outlook.com. You can contact us about the radio show or the podcast on that email. And also the ways to listen to the radio show are tune in every Thursday, 1 to 3 p.m. on Fiesta 95 FM in Southampton and listen to myself and Mark H's dulcet tones, and also via onlineradiobox.com. Those are your ways to access the show. So, coming up for you in the first half today, the Two Saints review of Everton 1 Saints 0 and Saints Club News.
It's the two Marks, C and H, on the Two Saints Show, Fiesta 95 FM.
Right, welcome back. And the Two Saints review of Everton 1 Saints 0. Saints edged out by Everton. Hassan Hutu on Southampton's lack of punch. Bednarek, we have to dig deep. Yes, Jan, that's definitely not Sherlock doing his homework, but you're right, you do have to dig deep. Ralph is absolutely right. We do have a lack of punch up front at the moment. And yeah, we were edged out by Everton. I didn't think it was an overly bad performance, Mark, but I don't think it was an outstanding one either. And the lack of cutting edge certainly bit us on the backside, didn't it, again?
Yeah, I mean, there was a few poor performances. I could go to town on one certain individual, but the thing is collectively there was probably a few poor performances.
Yep.
Gotta be honest, you and I watched it on a watch along, yep. And the person that we were watching it with was championing Bednarek.
Yep.
I actually managed to watch extended highlights, and he didn't actually do that bad compared to some of the people that were playing in their, let's say, quote unquote, natural positions. I mean, all I would say is I felt that Salisu struggled a bit. Vestergaard struggled, and I think it shows them both their stats.
Yeah.
Nathan Redmond, you've got to say, in much as he did the pass for the goal at Chelsea, the last two games he struggled in terms of giving the ball away to the opposition, actually passing it to them.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it was a bit of a itsy bitsy performance. I didn't actually feel that we came on strong until the last 10 minutes plus injury time of the game.
Yeah, it was strange, wasn't it? Because it's almost as though the players just got a sudden gust of wind up behind them and just suddenly decided, we're going to go for it now. And you sat there scratching your head going, well, where was this for the last 90 minutes?
Yeah.
We'd had one shot on target in 70 minutes, and you sat there scratching your head going, why have they suddenly just put their foot on the gas almost, wasn't it?
It was definitely a Beatles or a U2 helter skelter, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For the last 10 minutes. But the thing is where that wake up call came from, I don't know, because it was lying dormant for the first 80 minutes of the game, and it was almost as though it was to be a realisation we need to try and get something from this game.
Yeah, it was almost as though I wouldn't say it was a blind panic. It was almost as though a panic set in, or somebody sort of rang a bell on the sideline going, right, now's the time, now push hard for the last 10 minutes. And you sat there, as I said, you sat there scratching your head, weren't you, thinking, where was this team for the last sort of night? If we'd played the 90 minutes the way we played the last 10, we might have got a result, Mark, to be fair.
Yeah. No, that's true, mate. But then I agree with Ralph. I mean, he was talking after the game about, again, situations and creating chances, and being in the moment to take those chances. And even, I think we only really created 2, although we only had 1, I believe, on goal that you said. But obviously there was the Vestergaard chance right towards the end.
89th minute.
There was the Danny Ings opportunity, which was earlier on, which I think he blazed high, wide, and handsome. But I mean, that was kind of a difficult one to take, because I didn't necessarily think that Everton were great. Bearing in mind that they were coming off of the back of beating, their cross city rivals and everything else. But in hindsight, going into the game, I would have taken a 1-0 defeat probably because of our record at Everton. But after watching the game and sort of seeing how strong we sort of came on in the last 10 minutes, I thought to myself, well, there was an opportunity there to get something from the game, but again, we didn't grasp it. And the other thing that I would have to say as well, in all honesty, is that for me going forward, I don't think I want to see. Certainly, I don't think I want to see Ryan Bertram sign a new contract.
No.
I've changed my mind about that, and also what I think is more worrying for me is that Shea Adams. And I'm an advocate, and I still will be an advocate of him, but he was fairly anonymous on Monday night for me.
Ryan Bertrand, I think it's ironic as well, because both him and Danny Ings, Mark, it's interesting. I picked up on this a little bit. So Ryan and Danny still not signed new contracts, which the club have given them. They're both apparently happy to stay. I've got to be honest, their body language at the moment, I'm not saying they're not making any effort whatsoever, but their body language at the moment isn't telling me they're 100% on it. It's not telling me they're 100% at the races for whatever reason. It may be they're feeling tired or whatever. It may be they're feeling that their fitness is suffering, whatever. I don't really want to hear about that. From my point of view, watching it as a fan, their body language isn't telling me they're both fully up for the fight at the moment. And I'm not saying a relegation fight, because God forbid I should use those words. Everyone's in meltdown already over that. A little bit of realism, everybody. I'd defy anybody to do any better than what Ralph Hasenhüttl, who's done with all the injuries and all the decisions that have gone against us and key players being out and whatever. I think he's done an absolute miracle, to be fair. But you do have to be accountable for your mistakes. And I think the players are the same. Players have to be held accountable for their mistakes. And for me at the moment, Ings and Bertrand are not 100% on it for whatever reason. And that's not good enough. I mean, and Danny Ings, if you want to move to another club, if you're Danny Ings, the only way you're going to get that is to play at the level you were playing at before. You need to get that level back, Danny, because you're not getting to move elsewhere if you don't. Not to a big club anyway.
The perception.
It's all about perception.
This is what the problem is for me. The perception, rightly or wrongly, and this is how I see it, is
it's all about perception.
Because they are not committed to the club, right? And like you say, I'm not calling their professionalism into question, right?
Like me either.
I'm sure they go out and they do what they can. But because they haven't signed the contracts, is there a little bit of, I don't know, holding back in reserve? Yeah. Because I wouldn't say Danny Ings, actually, to be fair to Danny Ings, he doesn't look like he's coasting 3 games, right?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Bertram, sometimes I think, again, not coasting 3 games, but there is the school of thought of playing within yourself, Mark, right?
I would say
within yourself.
I would say when I look at it at the moment and watch the game, okay, Danny Ings is still putting himself around. He's still trying to close people down, but I would say Danny Ings at the moment is 90%. He's at about 90%. He's not at 100. He's at about 90%. Ryan Bertrand at the moment is at about 75. Ryan's playing at about 75% of what he's capable of. Danny Ings for me about 90% because he is making runs. He is putting the effort in to a degree, but I think it's only about 90%. And unfortunately, I think Danny Ings last season Project Restart when he was 100%. Yeah, that extra 10% is a big difference. With a player like Danny Ings, that 10% more is massive. With Ryan Bertrand, it's definitely an issue as well, because he plays in a position where if you're not playing at 100% and you come up against a really strong opponent, you're going to have a problem. And if you're Ryan Bertrand at the moment and you're playing at 75%, greatest respect to him, you're going to get found out. And he's been getting found out in the last few games.
Yeah. And the only other thing that I wanted to throw into the mix, because we will touch on this actually later on in the show.
Yeah.
We're covering I think it's the Saints and the Press, right?
Yep.
But I just want to point this out. I mean, the thing is, I was looking at something the other day, and Saints are actually in the top 3 for injuries this season.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, staggering.
I think top was Liverpool, then us, or it might be Liverpool, Leicester, and then us. But the top 3 anyway were Liverpool, Leicester, and us. And the thing is like, I look at Liverpool, they can absorb the injuries because of the size of squad that they have. And this is what I'm coming on to in a minute. Right?
Well, not only that, Mark, as well, they've also got more quality.
Yes, Leicester can also do that because they have owners that invest in their
football. And again, they have quality.
Yeah, right. Now, but obviously with Saints, it impacts on us and all that there. And sometimes whenever certain parts of our fan base are losing it because, we aren't where we were at the start, 8 games into the season when we were top of the table or whatever it was, all of a sudden, don't get me wrong, right? It's important to recognise that we lost 6 games on the spin, and that was a club historical record, and we don't want to do that again. 6 games on the spin, but I mean, all I would say is there's mitigating circumstances, and you have to take that on board and allow them to come back. But the other thing that I'm just going to touch on very quickly, and as I say, we're going to be covering it a little bit in the press, is that as far as the depth of squad's concerned, there's been a lot spoken about this in the sense that Ralph allegedly asked for a smaller squad because he didn't want a big squad because it meant unhappy players, right? And having a smaller squad meant that he could work one-on-one, right? But, I mean, even he has said, right, that, when it comes to the big games, right, he's reliant on experienced players. He doesn't want to throw kids into the fire, right? Now, and this is something that he spoke about the other week, a couple of weeks ago even, right? And it was misinterpreted in the same way that it was misinterpreted that he said he wanted a small squad. I think because part of that small squad statement was also appeasing the people who are running the football club, because the club is not awash with money, right? And he knows that even if he wanted to have a bigger squad, financially, we don't have the money to do it.
Well, for me, I've been championing this, Mark. I've been championing this right down the line from day one, saying Ralph's been misquoted on this, misunderstood on it. Nobody understood where he's coming from. I've had people absolutely battering him, saying, "Oh, well, careful what you wish for, Ralph. You wanted a small squad." But I've made this point from day one. Ralph Hasenhüttl wanted a squad of 18 to 20 players with quality. He didn't want a smaller squad with no quality, devoid of quality, full of youngsters. He wanted a squad with quality, but a smaller squad to enable him to work one-to-one players. And look at the players that have played under him, that he's coached one-to-one. And I'll tell you something now, they've all improved. Ward-Prowse has improved. Vestergaard has improved. Bednarek has improved. So many players in that team that have improved under Ralph Hasenhüttl's tutelage because he's been able to give them one-to-one. Carl Walker-Peters, fantastic impact he's made. Ralph's changed him as a player, definitely. He's a far better player than he was at Tottenham. And he was a good player at Tottenham. Yeah. And the proof's in the pudding. Ralph's been absolutely berated for wanting a smaller squad. He wanted a smaller squad, people, with quality, not a smaller squad devoid of it. And if you look at the Saints squad as a whole, there's probably 3-4 players at the most that are top quality. The rest of them aren't. And that's the issue. And if you add into that all the injuries we've had, poor results, bad officiating, all sorts of different scenarios and different situations, and you're right, Mark, third or fourth in the table for the most injuries this season, I defy anybody to do the job anywhere near to what Ralph Hasenhüttl's done. The man is outstanding given what he's done under the circumstances, with both hands tied behind his back. Give him some credit, people, and stick by him. Getting rid of the manager at the moment is not the solution. Leave the guy alone. It's not his. It's not Ralph. Ralph's not the problem.
There's the other thing is Mark, and I'll finish on this point.
Yeah.
Right? There is nobody else out there currently available that could replace him. So we can't even have that discussion. That's not even a discussion.
But it's not only that. People are saying, get this person in, get that person in, get Benitez in, get this manager in, get that. Right, we need a manager that's not currently working, or we need a manager that's not currently with a club, okay? And we need a manager that's not going to cost us any money. Because if Ralph goes, if they decide to sack Ralph, they've got to pay up his contract. Saints have no money, people. Without any money, you're not going to get another manager in, and you're not going to pay Ralph off. Ralph ain't going anywhere.
All I want to say, Mark, is this, right?
Yep.
A very famous country and western singer used to sing the words, "Stand by your man." Da, da, da. You know what I mean? And that's what Saints need to do at the minute. Saints supporters, I'm sure the board are fully still behind them. The people are trying to make news articles out of things, right? So I was reading one yesterday, right, where, Matt Lattiz was asked to comment on the future of Ralph, right? And he just turned around and said, as far as I'm concerned, I haven't heard anything coming out of the club.
Yep.
And I just sort of sit there and I think, it's not even an article, is it? It's not even a news article.
People respect Matt Letizia. People that follow Saints respect Matt Letizia, Mark. Quite a lot of them do anyway, okay? He himself said Ralph's done a great job under the circumstances with no investment and no funds for buying players. Matt Letizia himself said that. Now, if he's saying it, there's got to be some element of truth to it. The guy played the game. He knows enough about the football club. He's close enough to the football club to know about it. He's an ambassador for the Saints Foundation, etc. So, I happen to think on this occasion, sometimes Matt says stuff off the pitch, not playing anymore. He says stuff sometimes that's a bit, you raise a bit of an eyebrow and think, Matt, just don't say that. But when it comes to the football side of things in Southampton Football Club, a lot of the time he does talk sense when it comes to situations like going on at the moment. So, I agree with him on that one. Stand by your man, absolutely right, Mark. Ralph's the man. He's not the problem. Look at other issues going on at the club, because that's where the issue lies. And for me, it's a psychological issue. It's the mentality of the players. They're very fragile and they're very brittle. And the second we go behind, they just can't hack the pressure. That's what I think. But anyway, that moves us on to the next section after we take a break.
It's Mark C and Mark H. Mark my word, they're here with everything in the Two Saints Show.
Right, welcome back everybody. Saints Club news. Report, Saints 1, Man United 2. Romeu ruled out for... It's Premier League 2 report, sorry. Saints 1, Man United 2. Romeu ruled out for the remainder of the season. Oh, that's a big blow. Ramsey signs 2-year extension. Ings wins Sportsbet in goal of the month. Sportsbet.io goal of the month. My fault, I misread that. Report, blow for Southampton youngsters as injury news emerges, and all in this together, Hasenhüttl and Spacey Cal confirmed for the Southampton FC Foundation event, all in this together. So starting with the Premier League 2 report, Saints 1, Man United 2, Mark. Narrow defeat, but another defeat on. Yeah. We're saying it again, aren't we? Every week we're saying this at the moment.
A narrow defeat at home.
Again.
I've got an analogy for you, Mark, believe it or not, right? So both Manchester United and Southampton came up in the same season.
Yep.
So it was, forgive me because I'm losing track of time, it was the 18-19 season when we came back up the Premier League 2. And obviously last season there was no promotion, no relegation.
Yep.
Right? And it would seem to me that while Manchester United have been able to push on in Premier League 2, we've sort of stayed at the level that we've been at from basically since we've been there. And I have to say that even though we're talking earlier in the season about Ralph going, and speaking to the players on the pitch and saying to them there is a pathway, if you're playing well enough, there may be a few individuals that are playing well. We don't know because we're in the middle of lockdown and I can't go and see the games, unfortunately. Otherwise, I'd be reporting back to you every 5 minutes.
Although I will point out, Mark, before we go much further, just so everyone listening obviously wouldn't know about the game, wouldn't know about the background of it or anything like that. Just a little bit of background for yourself as well. The Saints side actually got younger again this week, okay, because of obviously people getting called up and dropping out and whatever. So actually, they were a younger team this week as well because they had Will Tizard and Seamus Keogh came in, and Alan Chapchet and Caleb Watts both dropped out. But I think they were both involved with the first team. So obviously that's why they dropped out. So obviously they brought some younger players in. So it was a younger team than the week before. But even so.
But, we're talking about the under-23s, in our essence, the B team, right? You're talking about 18-year-olds dropping out to go and play for the first, or be involved in the first team squad. And we're promoting people that are 17, 16.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They're 16 years of age playing on the 23 level.
Yep.
That's
crazy.
That, if anything, shows you that there is a distinct lack of any sort of squad depth and quality.
Yeah.
But there you go.
100%.
Look, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's why I raised it.
Yeah, I'm sure the B team put up a battling performance, but as I say to you, Mark, if you're going, irrespective of Ralph giving the rousing speech and going on the pitch and saying to the players there's a pathway, but like I keep saying to you, it's all right maybe, and you might be able to single out one or two individuals, but on the whole, if you're losing games of football and you're bringing those players in the our squad, our first team squad, that are also losing games of football, we're not winning at the minute.
Exactly.
How is a young individual who's come from the B team that are struggling to win games, right? And he's going into the first team squad at the moment that are struggling to win games. We're not winning anywhere here.
Well, the thing is as well, if players are getting call-ups and they're playing well and they're not featuring in the next game, it's going to have an impact. Like Nathan Taylor, came on in the previous game, before the Everton game, pretty good game, doesn't even feature in the next game. Can't be good for your confidence. Alexander Yankovic comes on against Man United, makes a massive error, gets himself sent off, he's not even on for like a minute. I get that, but you're just not going to give him another chance now, Ralph, just based on that? You had a rush of blood in a game against Man United of all the teams. Are you not going to involve him now? So, I do look at that and think, look, I'm not criticising Ralph for doing that, but I get why he did it. But is it any good for a young player's confidence when you bring him in and then you don't play them if they play well? If they don't play well, but it's a little bit like you think about when Theo Walcott went to the World Cup at whatever age he wasn't ready, but because he didn't play, it had a massive impact on the rest of his career, didn't it?
Right. Listen, Mark, right? I agree with some of the sentiment of what you just said, okay? But to be fair, right, I get the Nathan Taylor thing, okay? Yeah. But realistically, on Monday night, would I have played him or Yankovic? No, I wouldn't. I would have went with experience, and this is what Ralph has been talking about recently. Where I do believe that given the current state that we're in, we need to go with the experience, as much experience as we can muster in the first 11. And the other thing is in the current climate, I'm not saying that Yankovic's career at Saints is over, but in the current climate at the moment, you can't give somebody an opportunity that lost their head 73 seconds. How many of us, I've got to be honest about this one, Mark, right? How many of us would have been sat there on Monday night with the prayer mats out saying, please get the 74 seconds, at least I'll feel slightly more reassured?
Look, I'm not I'm not disagreeing with you on that. I'm just making the point. If you bring young players in and you don't play them, it has a negative effect on them. You know, people complaining, saying, "Oh, we sent Vokins out on loan, we sent Jan Valery out on loan." Guess what, everyone? They're not playing. That tells you something. If they can't get in a Championship team or a League One or a League Two team, does that not tell you they're not good enough for the Premier League? Proof's in the pudding.
The thing is Jan Valery is good enough, but he needs to hold his confidence back up, right? Jake Vokins one is definitely worrying, because is he good at? I mean, if he is not getting even into the matchday squad for Sunderland, right? Exactly. Alarm bells ring with me in terms of, you know, how is he perceived as being good enough for the Premier League? I get that Saints want to play him when we're playing FA Cup or League Cup games against lower opposition. I get that. But he's gone to Sunderland in League One, and he should be playing more. I wouldn't say he starts every game. Surely he must be getting a look in somewhere down the line. Well, no.
I think there are far more worrying things that are going to be developing at Saints as well, because guess what, people? Summer's coming, and guess who's coming back? Yeah, you heard it here first. We're going to be stuck with Wesley Hoot again.
I'm glad you didn't mention Michael Obafemi.
Oh, not even going there.
Moving on.
Right. Kane Ramsey has signed a new 2-year contract extension, and in celebration of that, he managed to not get picked for the first team. Brilliant. Fantastic. Kane Ramsey, a right back, so a full-back, somebody who plays naturally at right back, could have played against Everton, signs a new 2-year contract extension. I'm seeing the funny side of this, Mark, okay? Signs a new 2-year contract extension, can't play for the first team, because quite clearly he's not ready for the Premier League yet.
I have to be honest and say,
you can write it, could you?
When Saints offer players contracts, right? Yeah. I'm assuming that there must be some consultation with Ralph. Surely there must be. If you're in the B team, surely there's a consultation with the first team manager, and he then turns around and would make some sort of approval, rather than people in grey suits turning around and saying, well, we're a bit short here, we might as well sign him on for another 2 years. It's a cost-effective cost-effective exercise. Because what you got to ask yourself, Mark, is this, right? Is are Saints just basically saying, we'll sign Aaron Ramsey on, right? Because we're not looking to have anybody as a number 2 that's going to challenge Kyle Walker-Peters for next season. Do you know what I mean? Well, and the thing is, I'm pleased for Kane, because Kane's pleased that he signed a new contract, and I get all that. But seriously, in 2 years' time, you know, I don't know how long this this Shore podcast is going to last, right? But in 2 years' time, I have a funny feeling that we're going to be sat here, right? And his contract's going to be up again. And will he have progressed in those 2 years? And those are the questions that you need to be asking yourself before you get these people to sign new contracts.
The other thing is, if there's no consultation with Ralph over this, okay, that means it rests squarely at the feet of Matt Crocker, okay? Now, if things are resting fairly squarely at the feet of Matt Crocker, if Ralph's not having input, then no offence to Matt Crocker, he's got a lot to answer for. Because if it's not falling at Ralph's feet, it's falling squarely at his. He's the director of football operations now.
Yeah.
Which is the director of football, whichever way you look at it, really.
All I'm saying is okay, fair enough, we signed a new contract, but let's see how he progresses, over the next 2 years. But if he doesn't progress, Mark, there'll be an element of me that will be slightly angry, because I'll be sat there and I'll be going, all we're doing is putting polyfiller where there's a gap, because by him signing a new contract, it gives Saints the excuse of, we don't need to go out and get somebody who's going to push Kyle Walker-Peters, right? And we'll come on to stuff like that in the Saints transfer news or transfer gossip and that.
So moving on to the next story. Danny Ings has won the Sportsbet.io Goal of the Month award for January. Well, it ain't difficult because it's the only goal Saints have scored since January, because it was obviously in the 1-0 win over Liverpool. So it's not really difficult to vote for anyone else, is it? We've scored since.
Well, who were the other contenders? Come on, there must have been other contenders. Who were the other contenders?
Stuart Armstrong, and James Ward-Prowse.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
So I just thought that's funny.
To be fair to Danny, though, I mean, you're right to say
what you
say. Don't get me wrong, you're right to say what you said, but let's be fair to Danny Ings. It was a fairly nifty finish.
It was a good goal. It was a great goal, to be fair. Yeah. No, we both were watching the game when he did it, and it's just the fact he knew exactly where the goal was. Didn't even look brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, and that's what he's great at. That's why I loved that goal last season at Everton, where the ball's at his feet, and he knows instinctively, even though he's not touching the ball, where the ball is.
Oh, and there was one against Tottenham, wasn't there, last season at home, I think it was. Letizia pulled the ball down, sort of chipped it over Alderweireld and smashed it in with his other foot. Missing it as well, a bit like Letizia would have done. So it's quite a good goal too. I
tell you what, you'll be talking about that goal to me when we're in the retirement clubs, mate. It's a bit like your story about Vancouver Whitecaps.
Well, I probably will be, Mark, because to be fair, we might not get many more highlights out of Danny Ings, to be fair.
That's true, man.
Come on, Danny. Prove me wrong, please. Please prove me wrong. So, anyway, moving on. More bad news. Callum Slattery could be out until April with ligament damage. Well, he's not even playing anyway, so it's not like that's going to make a lot of difference. 10. Yeah, brilliant. Another blow for Saints. Well, it's not a blow. He's not even playing.
To be fair,
he wasn't even playing when he was fit.
To be fair, I sat there and read it, and I thought to myself, well, he's not playing for Saints at the minute. What little odds is it like, you know? But
I'll tell you what, you look at the injuries you got, you couldn't write it, could you?
In all seriousness, though, Mark, I mean, like, you and I both know that ligament damage can be quite serious. So,
horrific.
On the flip side of that, let's hope that, it's a speedy recovery. And normally, if he's at the club, also remember that he is the captain of the B team,
Yeah, so I'm hoping that Callum Slattery and Will Smallbone, who's obviously got an ACL injury as well.
Yeah.
So we're hoping to recover from their ligament injuries, make full return to full fitness, and get to play for Saints, because I'm making light of it a little bit, but it's because the injury situation is so horrific, isn't it? I mean, Romeu's out, Smallbone's out, Slattery's out, this player's out, that player's out. The good news is, everybody, Diallo and Cole Walker-Peters were led to believe could well be in contention for Sheffield United, as I believe they're both back in training. So that could be a little bit of a fillet ahead of the Sheffield United game.
Yes, but there's more.
Let's not read too much into that, because there's no team news yet.
But there's more bad news in that, and you obviously missed the article. Oriol Romeu out for the whole of the season.
No, I did actually say that Romeu's out for the remainder of the season, which I was going to get to once we finished talking about the situation with Callum Slattery. But the bad news is obviously another injury. Oriol Romeu out to the end of the season with a fracture, Mark.
Yeah, is a big deal. The thing is I just think there's going to be games towards the end of the season for me that would suit Romeu's battling instincts, right? Because
Sheffield United is one of them.
As we're not pushing the panic button, Mark, and I refuse to do it till even till the end of the season, right? But I think you and I both recognise that when you've got somebody who likes to get stuck in the middle of the park, right, and you're battling against teams that have a never say die attitude, and Sheffield United's one of those on Saturday, right? Oriol Romeu is definitely one of the troops that you want out on that pitch,
100%.
On Saturday, and for him to be missing. And there's other games, other key six. I don't like using the expression, but there's other relevant games the our season, right? Yeah. Where that Oriol Romeu would have been one of the first names on the team sheet.
Well, and for me, Sheffield United is definitely one of those games where he would be the first bloke you'd run out there. You'd want him in for the Sheffield United game, 100%. because that's one area you need to be strong against Sheffield United's midfield.
Yeah.
Because as you say, they just don't quit, and you need to have a strong midfield against them. And that's what we managed to do last time we played them and beat them, is because our midfield was quite strong. Our midfield performer. Yes. And, he was a key part of that. Anyway, so it's a massive blow. Ibrahima Diallo being back in training, obviously is fantastic news. Stepped in and did a fantastic job when he came in. That's great news. So if he can come back in and form he was in before he got injured, great. But, you never quite know they're going to come back when they've had an injury, do you? Anyway, no, exactly. Moving on. All in this together, Saints Foundation's online event takes place on Thursday evening. So that'll be taking place today, this evening. I do apologise, get my days mixed up. So that'll be this evening. Very good. And Ralph Hassan-Hootle and Marianne Spacey-Cow, the women's coach manager, has been confirmed. They've both been confirmed to be joining a lineup of Saints legends. You can get your tickets for the event for just £25 on the Saints website. This is an online event. Tickets will be on sale until 6 p.m. on Thursday evening. All proceeds going towards the Saints Foundation and the work they do to transform lives in and around Southampton. Hassan-Hootle and Spacey-Cow will be joining Kenzie Benali for a live Q&A at St Mary's, giving fans an insight into both Saints managers. They'll be joined by current players Danny Ings and James Ward-Prowse, as well as old favourites Matt Lettice, Franny Benali, Wayne Bridge, Terry Payne, James Beattie and Laurie McMenemy. Fans could also win some incredible prizes on the night with a silent auction for exclusive Saints merchandise and unique experiences, and there's also a captain's raffle with a range of James Ward-Prowse memorabilia. So don't miss out on a memorable evening. Get your tickets today or tomorrow. Well, or not at all if you're so inclined. So there we go. So that should be an interesting one. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's people who love the idea of having them in their own living room sort of thing. They're all sat there on the sofa. But, part of me, obviously, as you know, I live in, palatial surroundings, Mark. You can tell by absolutely. I can think of some of them that I'd like to be in my front room. I can think of others that I'd rather got out of my front room. To be fair.
Yeah. Anyway,
no, I'm joking. I am joking. So anyway, that brings us to the end of the Saints Club News section today. So we're going to take another break, and when we come back, it will be the second half. And coming up for you in the second half today, we're going to have other football news, Saints in the press and transfer gossip, and the Two Saints preview of Sheffield United versus Saints, and the Two Saints preview of Saints versus Man City.
The Two Saints Show here on Fiesta FM. Tune in every Thursday for informative football chat and great tunes.
Welcome back, everybody. So we're going to move into other football news now, and we start with a very sad story. Glenn Roeder, former West Ham and Newcastle manager, has died at the age of 65 after a long illness, the League Managers Association has announced. Roeder, who was a defender during his playing days, began his managerial career with a spell in charge at Gillingham. He was also a coach in the England setup when Glenn Hoddle was manager. The LMA said it was very deeply saddened at his death after a long battle with a brain tumour. Roeder began his playing career at Leyton Orient before going on to represent QPR, Newcastle, Watford and Gillingham. He captained QPR, in fact, in the 1982 FA Cup final, which his side lost to Tottenham in a replay, and to the old second division title in 1983. He was also part of the Newcastle team that achieved promotion from the second division in 1984. Alan Shearer paid tribute to him, saying he was just a brilliant person. A cultured defender as a player, he managed with his studious style and was always generous with his time and ideas, said LMA chairman Howard Wilkinson. Glenn was such an unassuming, kind gentleman who demonstrated lifelong dedication to the game. Not one to court headlines, his commitment and application to his work at all levels warrant a special mention. Football has lost a great servant today, and our sincere condolences go to Glenn's family and friends. He also led West Ham to a 7th place finish in the Premier League in 2002 before he was diagnosed sadly with a brain tumour in April 2003. He later had to have surgery and a period of recovery before returning to the dugout in July the same year. West Ham joint chairman David Sullivan and David Gold both said, "We're both deeply saddened by the passing of Glenn, who was hugely respected and liked by everyone in the game. As a player, he enjoyed success with QPR and Newcastle among others, before establishing himself as one of the country's top coaches with a well-earned reputation for developing young players, including the likes of Michael Carrick, Joe Cole, Glenn Johnson and Jermaine Defoe during his time with West Ham. Off the pitch, he was a loving family man, and our sincere condolences go to Glenn's loved ones at this very sad time. And certainly sentiments for myself and Mark on Two Saints Show echo.
Oh yeah, no, 100%, man. I mean, just to say, Mark, I mean, Glenn Rudder, I actually remember him playing for QPR in the 82 Cup final. Strangely enough, QPR were playing in red that day. Tottenham played in their away yellow. But the thing that always stuck out about me with Glenn Rudder was that he was probably one of the first sort of centre halves that I've seen that was comfortable with the ball at his feet. You know, before that, you know, you had centre halves who would head the ball or knock the ball long. They weren't always necessarily cultured on the ball. And I put Glenn in that bracket. You know, he wasn't rough and ready, he wasn't rugged, he wasn't, you know, the sort of things that you probably would look for in a centre half before. He was a cultured ball playing centre half, and it's sort of shone through when you think, you know, he'd been coached kind of by Terry Venables, and I think that's why when his playing career finished, you know, he went on to coach. I mean, the thing is, as well as, you know, before he hung up his boots, obviously he was at Newcastle, you know, and I know that the Newcastle fans, you know, they had a lot of time for the way that he played football. I mean, he had one move for attackers, which was known as the Rudder Shuffle, right? And apparently, you know, if you were stood in the Gallagher end at Newcastle, they did this shuffle, you know, the fans used to applaud like mad, apparently. But, I mean, the other thing is I know he had a great and personal relationship with Paul Gascoigne, you know, and I know that, you know, when he was up there, he tried to sort of shield Paul Gascoigne kind of like a father figure, you know, from unwanted press intrusion and stuff like that, you know. But as I say, no, it's a sad loss. And, you know, like you say, went on to be, you know, a really, really good coach, manager. But unfortunately, you know, the brain tumour sort of curtailed that a bit. And yeah, it's just really sad to hear the news, really, you know.
No, absolutely.
As you say, condolences to the family. It's very, very sad.
Yeah, and to the West Ham contingent, you know, everyone at West Ham, everyone connected with West Ham, fans of West Ham, owners, everyone that knew
QPR, Newcastle.
Yeah, absolutely. Every team he's involved with, coached, managed, any involvement in football at all. Anybody in football knew him. Absolutely. Moving on to the next story, which equally is sad, Mark. Ian St John, former Liverpool and Scotland forward Ian St John, has died at the age of 82 after a long illness. He joined Liverpool from hometown team Motherwell in 1961 for a club record at £37,500. Cool, that puts some of the modern fees and wages into context. Blimey, £37,500. He played 425 games for the Anfield side, scoring 118 goals during a decade of service, won 2 top-flight titles and scored the decisive goal as Liverpool lifted their first FA Cup in 1965. He also earned 21 Scotland caps and managed Motherwell, and a lot of people wouldn't know this, he did actually manage Portsmouth. There we go, Saints fans, I bet a few of you didn't know that. He latterly enjoyed a very successful career as a TV pundit, teaming up with former England striker Jimmy Greaves to great effect to front the hugely popular Saint and Greavesy show, which ran until 1992. Excuse me. The St John family's statement said, "It's with a heavy heart that we have to inform you that after a long illness, we have lost a husband, father and grandfather. He passed away peacefully with his family at his bedside. We'd like to thank all the staff at Arrow Park Hospital for their hard work and dedication during these very difficult times. Premier League champions Liverpool are deeply saddened by the loss of a true Anfield legend. We can't afford not to buy him," was something that was famously said of Ian St John. St John's finishing prowess was evident from his early days at Motherwell. The club he'd watched as a supporter lifting the Scottish Cup for the first time in 1952 before joining 5 years later. His prolific record earned him international recognition and a move to Liverpool under fellow Scot Bill Shankly, where he soon became a fan's favourite. It's gone down in Liverpool mythology that when the board were reluctant to spend a record fee on the player, Shankly's reply was, "We can't afford not to buy him." St John quickly began to prove his worth, scoring a hat-trick on his debut, a 4-3 defeat to Everton in the Liverpool Senior Cup. Within 12 months, his 22 league goals had helped Liverpool secure the second division title. He matched the total in season 1963-64 as the Anfield men won their first top-flight crown in 17 years, with a second title following 2 years later. Although perhaps his most iconic moment in the red shirt came at Wembley in 1965, when his headed winner in extra time overcame Leeds United 2-1 to give Liverpool their first FA Cup. He was a Scotland international by the age of 20 and netted 9 times in 21 appearances for his country. After leaving Liverpool, he had short spells with South African sides Hellenic and Cape Town City, either side of a season with Coventry City, before ending his playing days at Tranmere Rovers. Excuse me. He returned to Motherwell as manager in 1973, then moved on to Portsmouth before embarking on a successful career in broadcasting. Former Liverpool captain Jamie Carragher and Scotland skipper and Anfield fullback Andy Robertson were among those to pay tribute. R.I.P. Ian St John, Carragher wrote. One of the players, along with Bill Shankly, who made this club what it is today. Robertson added, a man of warmth, humour, knowledge, wisdom and joy. Scotland and Liverpool has lost a true giant. My love goes to his family. Rest in peace, Ian St John. Absolutely, and I can't agree with those sentiments more.
I mean, I echo everything you just said there, Mark, at the end. But I just want to touch, this is my own sort of reflections on Ian St John. I mean, the thing is he was the cornerstone to the start of the success for Bill Shankly. And you were right. I mean, I actually remember the quote whenever he said about, when the board balked at how much he actually was. Yeah. Shankly's reply was, "We can't afford not to bring him in." And the thing is his relevance to that team, because I have seen footage of the cup final goal, the FA Cup. Right now, obviously won 2 league championships. But what I was going to say was the analogy that I use with him, and I'm sorry if you're a younger sort of listener to the pod, right, is him moving to Liverpool, to me, was very, very much similar to when Kenny Dalglish moved to Liverpool. Yeah. Celtic, obviously, Ian St John made the move from Motherwell. Yeah. Yeah. And I've got to say as well, I've got to hold my hands up and say, I didn't know he managed Portsmouth. I must have missed that.
Can I just say to everyone, point out to everyone, just while I remember, Mark, just point out to everyone while I remember, what I've just actually read out to you all was courtesy of Phil McNulty, the chief football writer for BBC Sport. It was an obituary he wrote in tribute to Ian St John, and obviously we've used that to put out on the show today. So what I've just read out came from that. So Phil McNulty, I hope I've managed to do it justice, and I've managed to do St John justice there, hopefully. Sorry, Mark, carry on.
I was going to say, Mark, was like, but off the pitches obviously were, I remember him most because obviously Ian St John had I think he was at Tranmere Rovers the first season that I'd started taking interest in football. But obviously he'll always be fondly remembered for the double act that was Saint and Gravesy. The one thing that I loved as a kid, well, not even as a kid, as a teenager and young adult about him was that he had a larger than life smile, and his laugh whenever, Gravesy would be his playful self. I'm sure that when he laughed, at any of the events, that he would go to, I'm sure his laughter filled the room, because, But R.I.P. and St John, definitely, and the play, football be a sadder place without these people, that's for sure.
Yeah, Absolutely right, and I think the world is a much sadder place for the number of people we've lost out of the game over the last few years. So moving on to the next story.
The last 12 months.
Last 12 months, last year. Well, it's been 2-3 years, Mark. In fairness, if you look back over it, with former England players, etc., it's been 2-3 years. 12 months has been horrific.
Period.
Well, we're living in a horrendous period as it is, aren't we? So let's just compound it even more.
Exactly. I think it magnifies everything. It magnifies everything as well, Mark,
Absolutely. And the last one of these stories, which is, it's been quite a sad section of the show today, so we will get through this and then we'll move on to some other news as well. But I don't want to dumb this down at all and make light of it, because it's not a light situation. So, Peter Lorimer, Leeds United's record goal scorer, is battling a long-term illness in a hospice at the moment, the club have announced. The 74-year-old former Scotland international scored 238 goals in 705 appearances for Leeds over two spells spanning 23 years, and anybody that ever mentions Leeds would immediately mention Peter Lorimer, to be fair. He won 2 league titles, the FA Cup and League Cup with Leeds under legendary manager Don Revie. Yeah, what a great team that was under Don Revie, Mark. Fantastic times for them. In a statement, Leeds asked for privacy for Lorimer's wife, Sue, and family. The Premier League side also thanked fans across the world for their wonderful messages of support. He won 21 caps for Scotland, played in all 3 of the matches at the 1974 World Cup, scoring in the 2-0 win against Zaire. Yeah, not many people score in the World Cup either, so there's one to tell your grandkids about always, isn't it, Mark? So yeah, very sad news. Peter Lorimer, keep up the fight, Peter, and we hope you pull through.
Yeah, exactly. All I was going to say, Mark, was reflections-wise, and I wasn't a great fan. I've got to be honest, I wasn't a great fan of Don Revie and the Leeds 70s team, right? But I was a bit of a fan of Peter Lorimer because he scored some thunderbolt goals. And I mean thunderbolt. His actual nickname was Peter Hotshot Lorimer. I remember that when I was a kid. That's what they nicknamed him. And he was one of those players that when the ball was struck, it stayed struck, and some of his goals, I mean, the balls just used to sear into the back of the net, So yeah, let's hope that there's some kind of recovery for him,
Yeah,
but it's very sad news, mate. The other thing that I was just going to mention, just while we're doing all of this, I want to send speedy recovery wishes to Jimmy Case, because apparently Jimmy Case has caught COVID. So
I'm led to believe, Mark, that he's currently recovering from it. So if you are Jimmy, we wish you all the best from the Two Saints show. Obviously, father of Liverpool goalkeeper Alisson has drowned, so very sadly, and Southampton versus Brighton are going to be live on the BBC. Liverpool goalkeeper Alisson Becker's father, Jose Agostinho Becker, has died aged 57 in Brazil. Local police inspector Doroteo Macedo Fio said Becker drowned at a dam near his holiday home in Lavras do Sul. I'd like to thank everyone for the messages and tributes to my beloved father, Alisson said on Twitter. Our family feels loved by everyone. Liverpool said they're also deeply saddened by the death and asked for privacy for Alisson and his family. The thoughts of everyone at the club are with Alisson and the Becker family at this incredibly sad time and difficult time, Premier League champions tweeted. His former club international, as well as fellow Brazilian side Fluminense, where his brother plays, have also expressed their sadness. His teammates Adrian and Virgil van Dijk both expressed their support on Instagram, the former writing, "We're all with you, Hermano." Manchester United goalkeeper David De Gea also posted his condolences.
Yeah, I mean, it's to lose a parent in those sort of circumstances were basically going out for a swim. And obviously we don't know what's happened, but he's drowned. Very, very sad. But unfortunately these things happen in life, my friend.
Southampton's Premier League game against Brighton on Sunday the 14th of March will be shown live on BBC One, iPlayer and the BBC Sports website, and the game kicks off at 12 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. What, another 12 o'clock kick-off on a Sunday?
Yeah, the thing is...
The day of normal kick-offs is long gone, Mark.
It's probably good news for Mike because he doesn't like the Sunday kickoffs because it interferes with Sunday with the missus. So there's a chance that we may have to be watching that one on the BBC rather than
I was going to say, we don't like Sundays either. It means you don't get a watch along.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I mean it's good. It's good news for the Saints fans out there. Hopefully, it's good news for the people that don't have Sky and don't have BT in their homes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's hope it's a corking game of football, eh?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, let's hope we get as good a result as we did last time we played them. And Musa Gineppo scored that absolutely stunning goal on his debut. Wouldn't that be nice? So, moving on now to managerial appointments. And Sheffield Wednesday have named Darren Moore as their new manager. Ipswich Town have appointed Paul Cook as manager. And Leyton Orient have named JB McAnuff interim boss. Sorry, Mark, over to you.
Right,
Sheffield Wednesday named Darren Moore as manager.
Those three in a nutshell. Basically, Darren Moore, strange one, because Darren Moore has been fairly successful in his recruitment at Doncaster. They're in the playoffs at the moment, and it just baffled me that he decided to take the Sheffield Wednesday job. Now, while Sheffield Wednesday's a huge club, right, they've got probably a lot more resources than Doncaster Rovers. There is an analogy at the minute, Mark, because Sheffield Wednesday are second from bottom in the Championship, whereas obviously Doncaster's in the playoff places in League One. So Doncaster could be basically bypassing Sheffield Wednesday at the end of the season, them going up to the Championship, and Sheffield Wednesday going back down into League One again. I'm just wondering whether Darren Moore has made the right move. I get that it's a higher profile club and there's probably greater resources, but I actually thought that he was building something pretty good at Doncaster. But obviously he feels that he can go in and lift, Sheffield Wednesday to their former glories.
Yep. And talking of managers and former glories, Paul Cook been appointed as manager of Ipswich Town.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting.
He's done the rounds a bit, hasn't he?
Well, Paul Cook's been offered. I've got to be honest. He's been out since Wigan, right? He decided at the end of last season to leave Wigan. And the fair dues to him, he'd done everything that he could. And obviously he was looking for the move on in his managerial career, which kind of is fair enough. But the thing is he's took his time over this, Mark. Apparently he had quite a few offers in the summer in terms of jobs that were offered to him and they were turned down, or he probably didn't feel it was the right move for him. So it'd be interesting to see, because I'd say that Ipswich is a fairly high profile appointment for him compared to probably some of the other jobs that he was being linked with and probably offered. So it'd be interesting to see how he goes. Obviously, he's been appointed on the back of Paul Lambert. I think Paul Cook was actually in as part of the backroom staff a few weeks ago. So obviously now he's been elevated to manager. The great sympathy for Paul Lambert, because obviously he had COVID as well, but I think he'd reached the end of the line with Ipswich. I mean, the fans particularly weren't happy in what they were seeing, and in fact, there was a quote from Mick Mills, the ex-Saints player who does the summarising on the radio, and he even remarked that Ipswich were in a pretty low and sad place at the minute. So hopefully, with the appointment of the new manager, it can galvanise. But the ironic thing about, they actually sacked Paul Jewell on the Saturday, and it was off of the back of winning a 2-1 win. And I thought to myself, Alan Pardew, winning 4-0 at Bristol Rovers, and yet we still sacked them.
Yeah, that turned out to be quite a result for him, didn't it? That 4-0. Anyway, so the last one is Leyton Orient name McAnuff as interim boss.
Yeah, I mean, look, the thing that's sort of interesting from this point of view is obviously he's one of the elder statesmen in terms of players at Leyton Orient. And it's an interesting appointment. I mean, it's a good chance for Joby to sort of cut his cloth in the management game. Obviously, it's something that he's wanted to get involved in. And look, I wish him all the best. I mean, when I lived up in London, I mean, Leyton Orient was one of my local clubs, so hopefully, he can do a good job for them. I mean, I think at the end of the day, for Leyton Orient, it's all about making sure that they're consolidated in League Two for this season, and then maybe see where they go, from next season. But basically making sure that they stay in the league's the main game, But good luck, Jody McAnuff. I mean, I always thought he was a decent footballer. I mean, I remember when he was playing for Reading, and I think he even had spells at West Ham and Watford. But I remember him particularly at Reading, and certainly he's a good player, and hopefully he'll prove to be a good player manager for Leyton Orient.
Right. Yeah, let's hope so. Right, moving on to other football headlines. So we've got World Cup 2030 bid backed by government. Jiangsu FC, Chinese football in chaos as Super League champions cease operations immediately. So, I think there's a few Saints fans starting to sweat a little bit now as well, Mark, on that one. So, World Cup 2030 bid backed by the government. So, it's UK and Republic of Ireland associations back the UK government support for the bid. Boris Johnson says it's the right time for the UK and Republic of Ireland to launch a joint bid to host the 2030 World Cup. They will reportedly pledge $2.8 million to kickstart the process in Wednesday's budget. Well, that's generous of them.
Yeah, I think one of the things that interested me about this story, Mark, was the fact that they also at the same time have offered UEFA, right, the opportunity to have the Euro Championships this summer in England, right, or in Britain, sorry, right. And one of the stadiums that they've actually spoken about hosting some of the games is St Mary's. So it got me thinking along the lines of, on the back of if the Euros was to be played here this summer, right? Would St Mary's, and I thought about it, and actually there's a good chance that St Mary's could be one of the stadiums that would be used if there was a World Cup.
It's been used before. I've seen Wayne Bridge play at St Mary's for England. I've seen James Beattie play there for England. We've seen the women's team there play there. We've seen other World Cup players playing there and World Cup teams playing there. So, yeah, why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, wouldn't happen. It's happened before. So,
fingers crossed, mate.
Absolutely. Wouldn't that be nice? Bit of international football at St Mary's. Not like we're likely to see any from Saints anytime soon. Anyway, reigning Chinese Super League champions Jiangsu FC have ceased operations 3 months after winning their first league title. The club's owners, Suning, also own Inter Milan. Jiangsu is hoping to find new backers. I think Inter Milan fans are probably thinking, don't pull out.
All I'm going to say about this, right, is get your head around this one, right? So this is the owners, right, of the Chinese Super League Championship, or champions, right? And they have pulled the plug on that club. They've absolutely pulled the plug.
Overnight.
Right? But they haven't pulled the plug on the other club that they own, which is Inter Milan. Right? Now, explain something to me, Mark, right? Like I'm absolutely stupid here, right? But I thought we couldn't get money out of China. Right, and yet they're obviously putting all their resources in the Inter Milan. So the Chinese government can't be that happy because they're encouraging all their people to withdraw from international sport and concentrate on domestic stuff and keep it in China, keeping their money in China.
So the Nanjing-based retailer, one of China's biggest, which also owns Italian Serie A club Inter Milan, earlier in February said it intended to focus on core businesses, leaving non-retail assets at risk. Those assets include Jiangsu FC, but also potentially include Inter Milan because they own them as well. But it is an interesting one, and for me, they're just putting their money out of that and putting it into Inter Milan.
The point from my point of view, and this is more from a Saints point of view, is they've pulled the plug on their domestic champions, right?
Yep.
And and the Chinese government has been encouraging people to keep their money in China, right? And they don't want to go and invest in sports clubs, which was one of the biggest problems with Mr. Guy, right? But it's clear that they as owners of Inter Milan, they can get their money out of the country. They must be able to, because they've already said that their focus is on Inter Milan. Exactly. And obviously not on the domestic champions who are now folded as a football club. Exactly. So what do you believe? You know what I mean? What do you actually believe? You know, all this nonsense about, he can't get his money out of the country.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. No, exactly. Yeah, it's an interesting one. And yeah, as I said, I think a lot of people's ears probably went doing when they heard it. But there we go.
But it's bizarre. It makes me think to myself, has the bottom actually fallen out of the Chinese league? And they won't be paying the kind of wages that they have been previously, because clubs are, going to the wall, or they're deciding to put their focus elsewhere. I mean, obviously, there's more kudos in being the owners of Inter Milan than being the manager or the owners of the domestic champions in China.
Well, if that's the case, Mark, I would say that Graziano Pella left China at just about the right time.
And he knows it.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Grass isn't always greener, but in that occasion, it was definitely.
Yeah,
so the grass is certainly greener in.
It's a lot thicker.
The grass is certainly a lot greener in Juventus, isn't it? It's a lot cleaner. It's a lot greener in Italy. Sorry. Anyway, that brings us to the end of that section for the show for today. So we're going to take another break, and when we come back, we're going to be doing Saints in the Press and transfer gossip.
It's the Two Marks, C&H, on the Two Saints Show, Fiesta 95 FM.
Welcome back, everybody. So, Saints in the Press. Ralph Hasenhüttl warns Southampton over current lack of squad depth and quality. Ralph Hasenhüttl saying injury hit Southampton, can't rely on youngsters, I think that is. I'm sorry, the headline didn't come up then for some reason. You can be sure the Saints will stave off a relegation fight, how Ralph Hasenhüttl says. You can be sure we'll find the way out, is what he said. PSV regret Tadic coin throw incident. Jan Bednarek urges Southampton to show courage. Ralph Hasenhüttl provides encouraging injury update on Diallo Peters, but Walcott is set for another month out. There's your first lot, Mark. Ralph Hasenhüttl warns Saints over current lack of squad depth and quality.
Right, so basically, I don't know where we're going to go with this, really, because we spoke about it earlier in the pod, really.
Yeah.
It was just where he had been kind of misquoted as well, or he feels like he's been misquoted, because, and we've touched on it, it's basically, he's more or less saying that he did want a small squad and he did want quality within the small squad. But the thing is like, as we've just mentioned, he's talking about he wanted players of quality and he didn't want to be delving into the youngsters as much.
Yep.
And I did think at the start of the season that was what he was driving at more than what people, this quote about, he wanted to work with a small squad and everything else, so.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Yeah, 100%. So, Ralph Hasenhüttl obviously off the back of that warned that Saints can't rely on youngsters. Yeah, absolutely right. Can't rely on youth on that one. I agree with him on that one. He's also said, we can be sure we'll find a way out. He's confident Saints will pull clear. PSV regret Tadic coin throw incident. Yeah, and Bednarek urging Saints to show more courage. And Ralph provides you an update on Diallo. We actually spoke about the fact those two are back in contention, but obviously looks like Walcott's out for a bit longer.
Yeah, I mean, just on the, he's confident that he found a way out. I mean, all I'm gonna say is I'm confident that we'll find a way out. The Bednarek article was more to do with him turning. It was kind of a rallying cry that it was in terms of Saints, they needed to have strong minds and strong hearts to get themselves out of the current malaise. And it's true, they need to show a bit of fortitude and to get out of the current impasse that they're in. Obviously we're all concerned that they're not showing, they're showing a weak kind of mentality, really. In the sense that probably confidence is a little bit on the floor. I don't want to be too much of a doom and gloom, but But I do think that, as I keep saying on the pod and on the show, as long as people are coming back and we're getting back up to some sort of strength, then yes, I do think that we'll put it together.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely agree with that. If Theo Walcott out for longer, Mark, Diallo and Walker Peters fit. That's great. Good news, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's excellent news, mate. I mean, it's just good news all round. I mean, hopefully, absolutely. The thing is you wonder, because you do wonder that they're going to be forced into coming in on Saturday, because we don't have any other options really, and it's a question of whether they're going to be ready or not. And what I don't want to see is obviously them breaking down again or picking up another injury, because then it sets them back another few weeks. But we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Yep. And we'll move on to the Saints transfer gossip section. Stoke City boss transfer claim regarding Southampton man played down after report reveals that some break clause. This is Angus Gunn. Stoke saying he's going to rejoin and blah, blah, blah. Well, there's actually a break clause in his contract over the summer. So I wouldn't count your chickens, Stoke fans. It may not be happening. And I wouldn't count your chickens, Saints fans, thinking he's going permanently, because that might not happen either. Also, Saints I move for Chelsea's Abraham. Is that Tammy Abraham? It's an interesting one. What? Southampton, a leading chase for Summer Street for attacker with 10 goal involvements this term. Graham Souness claims outstanding Tottenham-linked player should be at a bigger club. Be quiet, Graham Souness. No one cares, you're irrelevant.
Hang on. You can't make... The thing is, Mark, it's a two-way street, this show, right? You can't make a comment once you've read a headline, because you've already read the story.
I'm joking.
Okay, so come on, right? So go back. I'm joking. Sans prevailing here, right? So going back to the top story, which was
Stoke City boss transfer claim regarding Saints man played down after report reveals that summer break clause.
The one thing that I was going to say about that was, I agree with you. I mean, look, Saints can call him back in the summer if they want to. Obviously, Stoke were under the misapprehension that they basically had the player till the summer of 2022. I mean, that may still turn out to be the case. It just depends where Stoke are in the table, what's happening, in terms of, are they going to be in the playoffs? Are they not going to be in the playoffs and stuff like that? And the thing is there's a good chance that Angus may be coming back as a number two potentially, because I think Fraser's contract's up in the summer. Although I could be wrong on that one, but no, actually it's 2022. His contract's up, so but. You never know. He could come back, and some guys. I mean, anything's possible in relation to our goalkeeping situation at the moment, But yeah, and then just going on the other stories, the Tammy. I mean, I laughed. I bolted at this, man. I mean, we'll tell you, if Danny Ings is going right and Tammy Abraham is coming in, I would take that all day long. Right, because I do think that he is a quality player, and if he plays the games, he'll score goals. I think one of the problems that he has is that he's, in terms of being at Chelsea, he's very similar to what Chelsea already have, in the sense that there's a guy called Olivier Giroud, who's a very, very similar centre forward to Tammy Abrahams. And it's usually either...
I see a far bigger issue, Mark.
Yeah, the wages and the transfer fee, I know.
Well, no, it's just not even that.
This is why I laughed at it, Mark, because I thought, hang on, who's come up with this?
He's valued.
Who's come up with this?
Yeah, so brace yourself, everybody.
Don't get me wrong. I did dream a little bit of thought, hang on, Danny Ings for Tammy Abraham, I can see that. Right? But then obviously you sit there and you go, hang on a minute. You go, there's no way that Tammy Abrahams is joining up.
For everyone listening in, I can't
believe he's on 120,000 or £110,000 a week.
Yeah, everyone listening in, he's valued at 36 million quid. So you can forget that one. Saints got no money. We're certainly not paying 36 million quid for Tammy Abraham anytime soon. I can tell you that now. As Ralph said, time to stop dreaming and get realistic. So anyway,
And then
Southampton are interested in a summer move. Yep, Southampton interested in summer move for La Liga attacker. Saints are interested in making a potential move to sign Levante winger Jorge de Frutos. Jorge de Fruit Loop in the summer transfer window. With Saints leading the queue of sides. Sorry, all I can think is you, Jorge de Fruit Loop.
I've had a look at him, Mark, and I would say, owing to we have struggled out wide this season, right? Namely because one of the mainstays of the team, whether supporters like it or not, is Nathan Redmond, and his form has been non-existent. Yes, Nathan Teller's come in at times and done well. Gineppo's been a bit in and out. So, is this a realistic target in terms of maybe bringing in that quality that's needed? You would probably have to say yes, Whether we can afford it or not, who knows? Because who knows what money Danny Ings is going for. And let's remember also, if Ram Bertram's going out the door as a keeper in rating, we've got to replace him as well in the summer.
Absolutely. Yep. It's going to be a busy summer then, isn't it?
Yep. So the last story, obviously, is Graham Souness. Let's get into this.
Graham Souness claiming outstanding Tottenham link player should be at a bigger club. Is he talking about Danny Ings by any chance? What a shocker.
The thing,
wave you and boil your head, as Mark would say.
I've got to be honest, Mark, right? And this one goes out to the people who may not realise, right? But although Graham Souness was a Saints manager, and I thought he would have held his tongue, right? Because he doesn't normally come out against people that were former employers, right? But then I thought about it and I thought, hang on a minute, because something that younger Saints fans may not realise, right? Graham Souness started his career at Tottenham before he moved to Middlesbrough, and then he moved to Liverpool. So, don't be that surprised that he's come out and sort of said, Danny Ings needs to further his career because he's way too good for Southampton Football Club. And when you hear stuff like that being said and comments like that, that is how it comes across. But I just thought he would have held his tongue, bearing in mind that Saints are one of his former employers.
Graham, he was too good for your club. That's why we signed him for 20 million quid. Cheers. Tell me I'm wrong, Mark. Tell me I'm wrong. Right, anyway, that brings us to the end of that section. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to do the two Saints preview of Sheffield United versus Saints. And Saints versus Man City. Right, welcome back everyone to the last section of today's show, the two Saints preview of Sheffield United versus Saints. Last time out this season and the last trip to the Blades, Saints cruised past the Blades to go third. Blades must wise up after Saints' defeat, was what Chris Wilder said last time out. So yeah, I would have been a lot more confident, Mark, if they'd not beaten Villa last night. I probably wouldn't have been quite so concerned about it. But do you know what? I'm not sure how to go on this one, so I'm actually going to go. Do you know what? I'm going 1-1.
And you did it, and I was going to go. See, you do this to me every time. You give your prediction first, and then I'm left with the beating the.
Do you know what? I don't think it make any difference who goes first.
Scraps. Sorry, I'm left with the scraps, but I think I agree with you, man. I think it's probably got draw written all over it, and if it hasn't got draw written all over it, it's probably 1-0 to them. But the thing is last night as well, Sheffield United won with 10 men because Phil Jagielka got sent off.
Oh, God, that's even worse. Saints can't beat 9 men.
I keep saying to people that keep quoting the record, yes, I get that they've only won 5 games, well, 6 now, but the thing is that they have an unbelievable fighting spirit, and when they're losing games, they're always in the game. They're not, they haven't befallen the sort of defeats that we have this season. And I don't want to mention.
Well, the thing is, you'll have fans looking at it going, we beat them 3-0 at St Mary's. Yeah, when we had fans in.
Yeah,
And
when we were third in the table, Mark, don't forget that.
Yeah, and when we had a fully fit squad.
And confidence was brimming. Yeah,
not only that, we had a fully fit squad and players that were firing. Adams scored, Armstrong scored, Redmond scored, and assists were from Bednarek, Ings and Romeo. So, we had a full plethora of players. They were all fit, all firing, and we were were doing really well, and we were surfing the crest of a wave, quite literally. So yeah,
I mean,
it's a very difficult game now.
That we're talking 3 months down the line, right? And now it's like because to me, I know I haven't given a prediction, and I'm going to go 0-0, seeing as you went 1-1.
Okay.
But all I'll say from my point of view, right, it's a must not lose. It's not a must not win.
Yep.
It's a must not lose.
Correct.
You know, because I just think at the end of the day, we need to target. Yes, we need to target points on the road against teams that we'll come up against, and to me, that's not losing. That's all about not losing, right? And then with the home games that you look at that are winnable, it's about winning your home games. With the winnable games, you know, and on the road, it's about picking up the points that, you know, and not losing games of football that you're not that hopefully you're not expecting to lose.
Absolutely, and as I also said to you, for anybody else who remembers, Nigel Adkins, I believe it was, famously said words along the lines of, football is just as much about psychology as it is about effort and skill. Pretty much, and I'd sort of certainly agree with that. I believe it was something along those lines that Nigel said, and I happen to agree with him. And I think there is a psychological.
Yes, and you've got to try and take some hope in that, and you've got to try and take some hope in. Hopefully, Diallo and Walker Peters are playing, but also you'd be saying within that, hopefully that they are fit to play, and it's not Saints running the risk.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing. But, you know, let's hope that we can nick a win from somewhere. But all this nonsense about, we should be able to turn over Sheffield United because of their record. And I've heard that on a lot of podcasts this week.
Do you know what?
It's not going to be as straightforward as that. It's not going to be as
all I'm going to say, Mark, is, right, if it comes to it, I don't care about pretty football. I don't care how much possession we've got. I don't care how many times we want to knock the ball backwards, sideways, whatever. Let's get a win, and let's do it the ugly way if we have to. But let's get the 3 points. I don't care about pretty football. No offence to Ralph. Don't care about pretty football. Get a result. If you have to play ugly football to do it, play ugly football. We need a result. We need to turn the corner. Play ugly football if you have to.
Like I don't care. Like you said off the record, a lot of what goes on in football in terms of on the pitch, you know, it's in the head with the footballers, right? And like Ben says, now is the time for strong minds and strong hearts. Right. And, you know,
as I said to you,
get the job done.
We should go on with the players, and hopefully we'll be able to, as Jan Bednarek says, man up a bit, show some courage, get the 3 points. Right, coming up now, the Two Saints preview of Saints versus Man City. And in the fixtures last season, we had 19th December 2020, we had Southampton 0, Man City 1, and in the reverse fixture, it was 2-1 to City, unfortunately. An early goal from Southampton. I think it was James Ward-Prowse. Kyle Walker-Peters did very well. Man City Saints. I think this is a tough one, very tough ask, given our injuries and everything else. But if we can get as close to a full-strength team as possible, and they're up for it, we can give anyone a game. But my worry is the psychology at the club at the moment and the players' mentality. My concern is the second we go behind at the moment or get any sort of negative, we seem to just fold and just collapse worse than the England batting order. So for me, the mentality is so fragile, Mark. I'm not convinced if City take the lead that we'll come back into it.
I like the analogy there, Mark. Very good. But key to kind of even trying to predict this result would be what happens, you know, on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sheffield United. If they get a win, you know, they're buoyed by it. Maybe even if they get a result, they're buoyed by it. But, you know, if they're coming in off the back of another defeat, then even I would venture to say that even with a full strength team, you know, because it's the mindset, you know, and funnily enough, it goes back to the cricket at the minute. It is the mindset.
Yep.
But yeah, so it's really hard to predict what's sort of going to happen. Although the one thing that I would say is the last games that he played at the FA had was against Wolves during this week, and it was 1-1 up until about the last 5 minutes, and then City ran in 3 goals. So I don't want to see a repeat of our last performance at the Etihad because it was something similar. You know, we went in front early doors and we looked fairly resolute, to be honest. And then obviously they scored about 15 minutes to go, and then they scored the winner with, I think it was 3 or 4 minutes left on the clock. You know, it leaves you kind of deflated. But I think I'm going to go with another draw. I know I said Sheffield United would be a draw as well. I'm going to go 1-1. And it's very much the heart ruling the head. Because the head is saying massacre at dawn, right? Whereas the heart is very much saying, let's squeeze something out of it.
Anyway, but all joking aside, I just want to see a performance for 90 minutes, committed performance. If they play with commitment and they play with energy and they play with passion, they give it the full effort for 90 minutes, and we just lose because Man City are a better team and play better on the day. Can't argue with that. I think, when Saints are on it, when their mindset's right and they've got a fully fit team and they're up for it, they can beat anybody. I don't really care how we play against Sheffield United. I don't care if we play ugly. I don't care if we're playing long ball. If we get a result against Sheffield United by not playing pretty football, I won't care. If we get a result against Man City from not playing attractive football, I won't care. If having 20% possession and actually winning the game means we'll win the game, fantastic. Rather than 78% possession and going down 3-1, to be fair.
It's funny you should mention that, but any time that we've actually won a game, we've had less possession.
There you go.
The games where we've had more possession, we've ended up losing. What I was gonna say, Mark, was I mean, I'm trying to be optimistic because
me too.
For me, the recent performances haven't been too bad.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think one of the problems with the Everton game was we conceded fairly early on, and obviously that rocked us back in the heels a bit. As I said, we only really started playing football in the last 15 minutes, which, although it was disappointing, but the only game really recently that I haven't been happy about with Saints was the Leeds performance, because unlike other people felt that 0-0 at half time, and I was just sat there thinking to myself, I didn't see enough even during that first half to suggest that it was going to be anything other than a Leeds victory.
Well, the only thing concerns me is how blunt we are in attack at the moment.
Yeah.
That worries me massively.
100%. I mean, Ralph's alluded to it himself, where he's turned around and said, there has been moments where opportunities haven't been taken, and he has said even at the moment that they're not creating enough chances. So, it's a problem, obviously, that hopefully he's going to have addressed it. And, at the end of the day, they've had a whole week this week to work on things, and hopefully we'll see that in both games this week.
Mario didn't ever look like his head was really in it, Saints, did he? In fairness,
there's a player there, but I think at the end of the day, it was a case of, he'd be brilliant one week, and then you wouldn't see him for the next 3 or 4.
And that's the problem. We need people that perform consistently. And people saying, "Oh, well, Vokins is not here and Valerie's not here." Listen, these players aren't even getting in the teams they're on loan with. Does that not tell you something, people?
Yeah, no.
Don't get me wrong. Jan Valery has played in the Premier League, so he's got a bit of quality about him. I'm not debating that. But if these guys cannot get in the starting 11 for a Championship team or a lower league team, then that kind of says to you maybe they're not Premier League quality. Well, and that sounds harsh on both of them. It probably does sound harsh on both of them. But if you can't get in the starting 11 of the team you're on loan at, what was the point of going on loan there in the first place?
I'm going to just on that point, and then we're going to wrap it up because we're meant to be talking about a preview of the match.
I know.
But we've gone off.
Well, it all has an impact, doesn't it?
But I know I've said this on the pod today, but I'm going to say it again. I mean, the thing is that the fact that Ramsey has signed a new contract, right? That tells me that the club see him as being the number 2 to Kyle Walker-Peters next season. And I just sit there and I'm thinking, no, No, stop it. Stop telling us that everybody that comes out of our football club, their shit doesn't stink. You know what I mean? I don't get it. Because, all I'll say is this. I mean, the thing is that's happening. And Jake Vokins probably will come back from his loan spell, probably not having had enough game time. And he'd probably be the understudy to whoever the first choice left back is next season. And I hope that, I've got to be honest, I think it is time that we moved on from Ryan Bertram and, someone else was there for next season.
So, anyway, Mark's gone a draw, Man City.
Yes,
I think Mark's gone 1-1. I've gone 1-1 as well. So we're both agreed on that one. I mean, I'd take 2 points from both those games, to be fair, Mark, because it'd be better than losing,
So would I, mate. I mean, it's like you're saying at the minute, to me, the away games are must not lose.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
It's a must not lose mentality for me, the away games. And then, the home matches to me is where you go out and you play your expansive football.
Brings us to the end of the preview of Saints versus Man City.
That's goodbye from me, and until next week, I hope you've enjoyed today's show, but until next week, please, people, keep well and stay safe.
Absolutely right. And all that's left for me to say is, here are the details of how to access the podcast version of the show. Just to remind you all, you can contact us via our email address, the Two Saints Podcast Show at outlook.com, for questions or items you'd like to hear in future shows. You can listen to the radio show on Fiesta 95 FM in Southampton and via onlineradiobox.com. Also, the Two Saints Podcast Show is now available via Spotify, Overcast, Acast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, or via our Facebook page, The Two Saints Show, and our YouTube channel, The Two Saints Podcast Show. And my final word, please join us again next week when the Two Saints go marching in again. Thanks very much. Goodbye.
Bye.